From my background in program evaluation, I strongly pushed to Ginger and to anyone else who will listen the notion of disaggregation in data. No Child Left Behind was among the first large federal programs. For all its warts, it did one good thing. It had separated out English learners and other groups of interest and no longer allowed school systems to either avoid testing them or to smash them together with other groups so you couldn't tell what's going on with that group of interest. So for the first time, English learners were actually looked at in terms of what's going on with them and how do they develop over time. And so in all of our research, I've always pushed, and she's readily agreed, that we need to look at not only at the overall groups, but we need to look at all of the other groups which make up overall groups. And sometimes you might expect from a statistical or an evaluation point of view that one thing might be going on with one group and quite another going on with another group. So it makes good sense statistically to look separately at groups, and then if you have central type phenomena going on in all of those groups, then it makes sense to put them together and talk about a larger population. So there's good statistical robustness behind the notion of disaggregation. So we have therefore broken down almost all of our data analysis into every group that we were told could be of potential political or educational interest. And so since we also work with very large data sets, whole states worth of data, for example, in North Carolina, we're able to look at some very small groups, for example, special needs students. We've looked at historically low-scoring groups of African American students. We've looked at Latinos as a special group. We've looked at a whole bunch of other groups of interest, and we're able to address the question for all of those groups, how are these students doing in dual language? So that's been a central, fundamental part of our research from the beginning.
One of the things we found in the North Carolina study, which was a big one because we were analyzing, the computer was analyzing over 1 million students every year, student records, and we had lots of African American students attending dual language classes. So we got to look at that, how come it works so well. And it was so powerful that these kids are by 8th grade, after they've been doing the program K through 8 in a Spanish-English program, most of them are Spanish-English, scoring 2 grades higher than their peers not in dual language. Okay?
Yeah, we should point out the primary group of these African American students are native English speakers.
Yeah, right. And so we did interviews with the students, with teachers, with principals. What do you think is going on? And they said, the kids said, hey man, we're in the honors program. You know, this is so cool what we're doing. The teachers said, I think it's the kind of teaching that we're doing that makes sense to everybody in the class. And the principal said it's definitely the teaching. When you teach through 2 languages, you always have some students who are second language learners. And so the teacher has to really be innovative in getting across the meaning of what they're trying to do. And when the teacher does all these extra clues to meaning for second language, it also helps everybody who used to not be so good at school. And so they get I get what we're supposed to do, and then they get excited about doing it.
So the takeaway here is that really good teaching for English learners turns out to also be very good and very effective teaching for students who are native English speakers, but also in an at-risk category. Now, I think that's one of the more important research findings that we have come up with in 25 years. And it also links up with my original interest in Title I evaluation. So from my perspective, and I think you would support me, Title I programs and Head Start programs should be using dual language concepts, if not be executed in a dual language way.
Right.
Dual language teachers rule.
They really do, right? They require a certain set of skills.
A lot of innovation going on, and it's very powerful.
Absolutely. Well, we've gotten to our last question. Before I ask the last question, I did want to thank our friends at duallanguageschools.org for allowing us this opportunity. These conversations are going to be sponsored and continue to be sponsored by Velasquez Press, and it's been so awesome that this is our first one, and that of course we have the Thomas and Collier research, which is really what grounds everything that we do as practitioners and fellow researchers as well. So thanks for all of the work that you do.